watch the day everybody found out how dangerous Mobb Deep really were. I mean, they one of the most legendary rap groups of all time. One of my favorite groups and all that. So we gonna see what type of beefs. Well, I already know, but we gonna end up watching like the what type of beefs they getting into and all that. It's mostly prodigies though.
I can see it inside your face. You're in the wrong place. Cowards like you just get their whole body. There's a war going on outside. No man is safe from. You can run, but you can't hide forever.
Everybody else that want drama, come see us, man. Come right here, man. We be right out here. If you want drama with us, we right here, son.
Word. QB,
Never
baby.
stop. The war's on 24/7. Make no mistakes.
Lot of corny man. A lot of corny rappers, man. I'm just like, yo, man. I could name a list of 100 corny rappers, yo.
Mobb Deep, like, yo, they had a lot of fights. Like, you know, they used to hang with the E-Money Bags and the Sherm the Worms and the crazy out to rest in peace to Prodigy. Like, they had fights, you know, they hang with super gangsters. Like,
Mobb Deep came up in an era when rap beefs weren't handled through Twitter posts or Instagram stories. If you had a problem with someone, you took it to the booth, and sometimes things got physical when rappers crossed paths in real life. And when it came to calling people out, Mobb Deep was right at the forefront, going at anyone who tried them.
Got a lot of garbage rappers out here running around like these supposed to be rapping, son. You know what I mean? This game is meant for a select circle of.
These guys weren't even grown men yet. They were just teenagers, but that didn't stop them from stepping to anyone, no matter how big their name was. And honestly, you'd never guess they were so young just by listening to their music. Mobb Deep was dropping some of the darkest, hardest-hitting tracks of the time, filled with raw storytelling about life in Queensbridge, New York. Their minds were way ahead of their years. With classics like Shook Ones Part 2 and Survival of the Fittest, they were making some of the
They
grittiest,
still grown.
most
They was as young
iconic
as hell at the
hip-hop
time.
tracks, helping shape hardcore East Coast rap.
I got you stuck off the realness. We be the infamous, you heard of us. Official Queensbridge.
Even today, some of their songs are still considered some of the best hip-hop has ever produced, both lyrically and musically. And that hardcore energy wasn't just in their music, it carried over into their real-life rap feuds too. Mobb Deep didn't shy away from calling out some of the biggest names in the game. They were even right in the middle of the East Coast versus West Coast rivalry, from legendary beefs with Tupac.
Ever, like, you know what I'm saying, cross paths with Tupac after that?
Nah.
Or did you ever have any ill will towards him?
Oh yeah, I wanted to kill that. Yeah, hell yeah, I wanted to jump him, cut him, shoot him, all that.
To going at Jay-Z.
I mean, I had super respect for Prodigy. You know, in order for me to really have a problem, in order for me to spar with you, like really spar, I gotta respect you.
And plenty of others, they had no problem going after rap's heavyweights. Let's take a look at some of those. One of Mobb Deep's earliest high-profile clashes was with none other than Snoop Dogg and Thaw Dog Pound.
Nigga, what the fuck is a Thawed Pound? It's the Dog Pound. He said Thawed Pound. Bruh. Who is this narrator? Like, what the hell is a Thawed Pound? Like, it's the Dog Pound, not the dog. It's the Dog Pound. Oh my goodness, who is this damn narrator?
It all started back in 1995, but interestingly, it wasn't even Mobb Deep who initially sparked the issue. It was actually a situation involving another hip-hop legend, the notorious B.I.G. It all kicked off with the release of New York, New York, a track by Thaw Dog Pound featuring Snoop Dogg, which dropped in September 1995. Now, according to Snoop, the song wasn't meant to be a diss. It was actually intended as a tribute, a way of showing love to New York's hip-hop scene. But things took a turn for the worse when it came time to shoot the music video. During the video shoot, something happened that completely changed the dynamic. Snoop and his crew were shot at while they were filming in New York. According to Snoop, this wasn't just a random incident. He later claimed in interviews that Biggie had called into Hot 97, a major New York radio station, and let it be known that Thaw Dog Pound was in town filming.
Stop saying that.
Not long after,
It's
the
the
shots
Dog
rang
Pound.
out. This completely caught Snoop off guard because, as he later explained, he had nothing but love for New York before the incident. He even went out of his way to invite local artists from the city to be part of the video.
On the radio, telling them like, yeah, y'all gonna let them come down here in our city and da-da-da-da, and they down there in Times Square. Go handle that.
Now, why would Biggie do something like that if the song wasn't even a diss? Well, some people believe that even though the track was supposedly paying homage, the lyrics had a tone that could be interpreted as disrespectful. After getting shot at, Snoop and Thaw Dog Pound decided to add some new scenes to the music video. They incorporated CGI footage showing them literally knocking over buildings and stomping on cars in New York City, making it look like they were destroying the city. There was also an intro where Snoop Dogg seemed to mimic or reference New York slang, which some fans took as further provocation.
I'm all ready to put work in. Take 10 steps and turn and shoot the first smirking.
Mobb Deep wasn't about to let that slide. Their response came in the form of the track LA, LA, which dropped in April 1996.
Why does it says Tragedy verse featuring Mobb Deep and Capone Noriega? It's actually a Capone Noriega track, not a Tragedy track. It's not. He wasn't the creator of this record. It was Capone Noriega.
The song featured Prodigy on the chorus with verses from Capone and Noriega and Tragedy Gaddafi, and it flipped the chorus from New York, New York, turning it into a direct diss against the West Coast.
It's Noriega, not Noriega.
We was looking at it like, what? Like, kicking over our buildings in the video, stomping through the city. It's like,
but the real heat came in the music video. The video for LA, LA featured two men in Los Angeles Dodgers hats, which many fans speculated were supposed to represent Daz Dillinger and Corrupt from Thaw Dog Pound. These two characters in the video are shown getting K-napped, with one getting thrown off a building and the other being tortured to death. The corpse of the latter is then dramatically tossed off the Queensboro Bridge. Thankfully, the feud didn't last forever. Over time, things settled down and Mobb Deep eventually ended up working with Snoop Dogg on two tracks, Thou Shalt Not K and Get Down. But if Mobb Deep thought that was the end of their involvement in the East Coast versus West Coast war, they were wrong. Because not long after their situation with Snoop, they found themselves in another high-profile feud, this time with Tupac. Now, Tupac was already a legendary figure in hip-hop, and his beefs were known for being intense. According to Prodigy, in an interview with Vlad TV, he wasn't even a big fan of Tupac's music at first until the beef happened.
I actually didn't start liking Pac until he started dissing us. Like with Hit 'Em Up and Hail Mary. Those were records that were more like Mobb Deep.
Once their feud started, things got personal fast. It all escalated in 1996 when Tupac released Hit 'Em Up, one of the most infamous diss tracks in hip-hop history. In addition to going after artists like Biggie, Tupac also called out Mobb Deep by name, and he didn't hold back. One of the most ruthless lines in the song took direct aim at Prodigy's sickle cell anemia, a condition he had battled throughout his life.
Oh yeah, Mobb Deep. You wanna with us? You little young.
When this happened, both Prodigy and Havoc had different reactions. Havoc later admitted in an interview on Math Hoffa's YouTube channel that he actually felt honored to be mentioned by Tupac at all. In his eyes, being name-dropped by one of the biggest rappers in the game meant that Mobb Deep had truly arrived.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he shouting you out in the song. It's all good. Let's go. Like, so we.
Prodigy, on the other hand, had a different perspective. In his Vlad TV interview, he suggested that Tupac wasn't really coming for Mobb Deep personally. He was just trying to prove himself to Death Row Records and solidify his spot as their top soldier.
So I guess he felt like he was the one that had to step up and be like, you know what? I'm gonna be the one that's gonna go at all you, and I'm gonna show my loyalty to Death Row since I'm new over here, and we're gonna make it happen right now. That is.
But regardless of Tupac's motivations, a diss is still a diss, and Mobb Deep wasn't about to let it slide. They fired back with Drop a Gem on Him, a track that wasted no time getting straight to the point. The song referenced the rumors about
this track
Tupac
was hard,
being
though.
R-worded in prison, warned him not to keep talking about New York, and even mentioned him getting shot in the head twice.
Got rock, got on the island, you officially got. Kick that dog, back.
The most eerie part is that the track dropped just days before Tupac was shot and offed in Las Vegas. Looking back, it made the song feel almost like a bad omen. Out of respect for Tupac's family, Mobb Deep decided to pull the single from radio play, but they still included it on their album. Posthumously, Tupac still had more words for Mobb Deep on his Machiavelli album, The Don Killuminati, The 7 Day Theory, which was released after his death. Songs like First, My Second Reply, and Against All Odds contained more shots at Mobb Deep. Their next high-profile
I feel like Tupac's death kind of saved Tupac from receiving a lot of diss tracks from people towards him because of the fact that he ended up like just dissing everyone that he felt like is coming at him one night. I feel like, yeah, I believe that his death kind of saved him from that.
clash came against another New York legend, Jay-Z. Now, Jay-Z is an artist who needs no introduction. By the time their feud ignited, he was already well on his way to cementing his legacy as one of the greatest rappers of all time. But despite both him and Mobb Deep being from New York, their paths would eventually collide in a heated rivalry, specifically between Jay-Z and Prodigy. The origins of this beef can actually be traced back to a single line in Jay-Z's song, Money Cash H. This track was widely interpreted as Jay-Z's response to New York, New York by The Dog Pound and Snoop Dogg. But in doing so, Jay-Z didn't just address the West Coast, he also took a subtle dig at Mobb Deep. Essentially, he dismissed LA, the track Mobb Deep had helped create as a response, saying that it wasn't a strong enough clapback to what Snoop and The Dog Pound had done. At first, things didn't immediately explode between them, but over time, little jabs were thrown here and there. Eventually, the tension built up until everything came to a head at one of the biggest hip-hop events of the year, Hot 97's Summer Jam in 2001. This was the moment when Jay-Z decided to go all in. He took the stage and debuted Takeover, a diss track aimed at both Nas and Mobb Deep. The full version of the track would later be released on Jay's album The Blueprint, but during that Summer Jam performance, he had the entire crowd hanging on to every word. While Takeover eventually became more famous for fueling Jay-Z's feud with Nas, the original performance at Summer Jam placed a heavy focus on Prodigy. In one of the most talked about moments of the event, Jay-Z put up a huge screen on stage and displayed a childhood photo of Prodigy dressed as Michael Jackson.
The ballerina, I got the picture, I seen you.
Now, for most people, a childhood photo isn't exactly career-ending, but in the hyper-masculine, street-focused world of early 2000s hip-hop, it was enough to send shockwaves. The crowd went wild, and the moment became one of the most infamous moments in Summer Jam history. But Prodigy wasn't about to let this go unanswered. Mobb Deep responded later that year in December 2001 on their album Infamy. Tracks like Crawlin' and The Learning, Burn contained direct shots at Jay-Z. However, despite the intensity of their feud at the time, things didn't remain hostile forever. In a 2017 interview with Rap Radar,
Jay-Z like they was eating good.
He and Prodigy were able to settle their differences before Prodigy's passing.
I mean, I had super respect for Prodigy. You know, in order for me to really have a problem, in order for me to spar with you, like really spar, I gotta respect you. I respect his. I sampled him for my first album, right. So I was aware of him and had respect for him. And we spoke. Me and him spoke before he passed.
While most of the feuds we've mentioned stayed within the booth, there were some that got physical. And that brings us to another wild chapter in their history, their conflict with Saigon and True Life. Saigon was an artist closely associated with True Life, and while he wasn't initially looking for trouble with Mobb Deep, he ended up in the middle of a serious altercation with Prodigy by proxy, and all of—
Yeah, that was fucked up on how they did Saigon. All he did was perform a song. The next thing you know, from what he was saying in the interview, he was saying Mobb Deep's people told him that he was good. I think he said it was having his cousin whatnot. They said that he was cool and whatnot. And next thing you know, that situation went from positive to like the other way around. So that's fucked up how they did Saigon like that.
Of this stemmed from a dispute over a single verse. It all started when Prodigy recorded a verse for a song called When You're a Thug, a collaboration with True Life and Cool G Rap. He was paid for the feature, and everything seemed to be going smoothly, until Prodigy decided to recycle part of that same verse for a different track. He used a portion of the verse on Never Going Back, a Mobb Deep song that ended up on the Any Given Sunday movie soundtrack. The problem was, that song came out before When You're a Thug was even released. This made it seem like Prodigy had taken True Life's money, but then turned around and used the verse for his own purposes first.
Deep incident, man. We did a record together, me, Prodigy, and Cool G Rap, you know what I'm saying? Came out alright, you know what I mean? We had a little buzz going with the record, and then played itself and spit the verse on another record when we paid him for that verse already, so we ended up getting to a little controversy. He treated me like a funny style. Tried to holler, he played games, so I had to wake him up, let him know what I was about.
True Life wasn't having it. He felt like he had been cheated out of an original verse that he had paid for, and he wanted to settle the score. So, he and his crew decided to take matters into their own hands. They went straight to the studio where Mobb Deep was known to record, and they didn't come alone. When they arrived, the place was full of people, including DJ Muggs from Cypress Hill and GZA from the Wu-Tang Clan.
He called this nigga GZA. Nigga, what the... Bruh. This nigga called him GZA. What the fuck? GZA? Nigga, like, seriously? Yo, who is this narrator? Like, so, yo, this narrator gotta be replaced. This nigga called him GZA.
But while the studio was packed, neither Prodigy nor Havoc was actually there at the time. That didn't stop True Life's crew from making a statement. They roughed up several people who were present, pistol-whipped them, and even robbed them. To make things even more intense, they even fired off a shot inside the studio. Interestingly, DJ Muggs and GZA were left completely—
Jizza! It's Jizza! Not GZA! Like, nigga, do you even see a J in the eye? Man!
Untouched.
You know, we ended up taking it there, man. Ran in the studio with 9 guns, two shotguns.
7 running with Uzis and shotguns and guns.
You know, slapped a few cats up.
These other kid over here, they pistol whipped them.
Sent the home.
Meanwhile, Saigon didn't want things to get physical. He was more interested in talking things out and resolving the situation peacefully before it escalated into something worse. Another notable feud that emerged during their run was with Keith Murray and Redman. While today, subgenres like weed rap and psychedelic hip-hop have been widely accepted in the culture, things were different back in the 90s. Rappers who built their brand around recreational drug use weren't always embraced by those who considered themselves hardcore lyricists. This divide was made crystal clear on The Infamous Prelude, a spoken-word intro track from Mobb Deep's 1995 album, The Infamous. On this track, Prodigy didn't hold back in voicing his disdain for rappers who focused on rhyming about weed, partying, and other lighthearted topics instead of hardcore street narratives. Now, while Prodigy didn't directly call out any names on the track, the words were enough for Keith Murray to take offense. He felt like the statements were aimed at him and his close collaborator, Redman. Both Keith and Redman were known for their ties to the Def Squad and their signature high-energy, weed-influenced styles. They were the type of rappers who didn't take themselves too seriously, often incorporating humor and wild metaphors into their music, something that contrasted sharply with Mobb Deep's raw, grimy realism. Instead of letting it slide, Keith Murray fired back with 80 bar assassin freestyle, where he went all in. He called out Prodigy by name multiple times, bringing up personal details like his background at a dance school, which was seen as an attempt to discredit his street credibility. He also took a low blow by referencing Prodigy's sickle cell disease.
Shape or form, and when you die with the rest of the Mobb Deep is on. You ain't got enough strength to even run.
Despite the back and forth on wax, there was a moment when things could have been resolved. In a 2021 interview with On The Radar, Keith Murray revealed that he had spoken to Havoc about the situation. According to Havoc, the comments on The Infamous Prelude weren't specifically aimed at Keith or Redman, but since the words had come from Prodigy's mouth, it was up to him to clarify. However, before any real resolution could be reached, the feud escalated to something more than just words. A physical altercation occurred. Mobb Deep continued to address the situation in their music. On the hidden bonus track in the long run from their Hell on Earth album, Prodigy took direct shots at Keith Murray. But that wasn't the only diss track to come out of this feud. Prodigy also sent subliminal shots on the I Shot Ya remix, a song by LL Cool J that featured some heavy hitters, including Fat Joe, Foxy Brown, and ironically, Keith Murray himself. In his verse, Prodigy referenced Def Kids, a clear nod to the Def Squad, a group that included Keith Murray, Redman, and Eric Sermon. However, by the time the music video was released, Prodigy's diss line had been removed. Even the official album version had the bar censored. Fortunately, despite all the hostility at the time, Prodigy and Keith Murray were able to put their differences aside years later. Before Prodigy's passing in 2017, they had settled their beef. But not all conflicts in Mobb Deep's history involved outsiders. In one of the most shocking moments in their career, even Prodigy and Havoc, who had been together since their teenage years, found themselves in the middle of a public fallout. In 2012, Havoc sent out a series of tweets that shook the hip-hop world. They were personal attacks directed at his own longtime partner, Prodigy. In these tweets, Havoc accused Prodigy of being gay. At first, Havoc tried to downplay the situation, claiming that his Twitter account had been hacked, but the damage had already been done, and rumors began spreading like wildfire. Not long after, an audio recording surfaced that appeared to feature Havoc speaking about Prodigy in a disrespectful manner. The authenticity of the clip was questioned at first, but eventually it was confirmed to be real. Once the truth was out, Havoc had no choice but to own up to it. In an in-person interview, he finally admitted that he was indeed the one behind the tweets, and that the reason he had lied before was because Twitter wasn't the best to resolve issues.
Tweets is crazy, you know what I'm saying? And I believe that Twitter is not a place to resolve any kind of beef that you have with anybody.
Prodigy, however, chose to handle the situation differently. Instead of firing back with insults, he took a more composed approach. He made it clear that Havoc's words didn't faze him. Despite this public fallout, the duo eventually found a way to patch things up.
I mean, they was best friends way before they even started beefing with each other for like a brief time. Of course they're gonna make it up. Like, that's what best friends usually do. And me personally, I do not like that beef at all with them going at it each other. It's like seeing two brothers going at it, and I don't like it.
A year later, in March 2013, Mobb Deep embarked on an international 20th anniversary tour for their classic album Hell on Earth. This move left fans wondering whether their previous feud had been a genuine dispute or just a publicity stunt to generate buzz for their comeback. Throughout their career, Mobb Deep had more than their fair share of beefs. But despite all the conflicts, every major feud they had was settled before Prodigy's passing. Looking back, fans can reflect on these legendary moments and see just how different hip-hop beefs were back then compared to today.
Yeah, that was a banging ass video.
You can run, you can hide, you can bite, you can bark, but at the end of the day, you cannot escape from the dark. This world is hell, so what can you do? Positive power and protest is not enough to eliminate the wickedness that's cruel. Like robbing hardworking folks for their money and killing innocent people with the lack of accountability. Corrupt cops locking a black person up for a small crime, but let a white person off for the murderous crimes for show. Difficult situations is hard, but life is a lot harder. Experiencing both, it may be tough. Evil people's out to do evil things. It's best for you to mind yours and stay in your lane. But yo.